Hi and welcome to this week's video. In this video it's a bit of a mix match, and as we go we've got a bit of work on the undercarriage being done, a few bits and pieces here and there, and a few pieces being actually fitted to the fuselage to stay. So join me and see what I get up to. Come on. Right, I'm going to install the rotor, the disc, onto the hub. And it says in the instructions to use an anti-seize grease, so I'm using copper grease. You've got to be quite careful about what types you're using. Some greases will actually react with the aluminium alloy, with the hub and the seal. So literally all you need is a small amount. People tend to go over the top with this stuff, and I'll screw these down loosely. There's no torque setting given to it, so this is going to be pure judgment on my half to what torque setting to utilise. But effectively this is all I've got to do is go through and get these in. I'll tighten them as a term goes, diametrically opposed. I've pre-cleaned the discs with brake cleaner, and I'll give them a bit of a wipe over after I've done this, just to make sure that none of the grease is on the surface. And you'll notice I'm wearing gloves, and it's not because I don't want the grease on my hands. It's because I don't want to transfer the general salts and sweats that you have onto the surface of the disc and cause corrosion. It's one of the biggest causes of corrosion. So that's all I'm doing. There'll be a bit of the grease will squeeze up underneath the head of these countersunk screws as I tighten them down anyway, and that will be sticking out the top, which again, when these are installed on the aircraft and it spins up, that will whiz itself out, centrifuge itself out right where we don't want it. Reasonably even, although it does state in the instructions for these brakes that a little run out can be required just to help break the stiction between the disc and the pad. So it's unusual. Normally not after zero run out, but you're after a very, very small run out. I'm not going to bother measuring the run out in this case, because I don't know how much it's unacceptable. It doesn't give you that technical data. Please note that as I'm wiping, I'm rotating and going to a fresh section of the tissue, so that I don't end up taking the contamination from one place and putting it into another. There we go. One disc done. I'll do the same to the other one. So we've got that bit sorted. Before we go to the other one, I'll just show you I've countersunk the back plates there to take countersunk screws, so that that can be bolted, and I have the clearance between these countersunks and these countersunks to have that nice clear rotor area. Right, I'll crack on with the next one. A foam grip is installed on the top of the control column. No switch yet. all wiring, so hence the piece of string going through as needed, so I can draw the cable down and out. So that's sorted, all locked and ready to go. And I've done the walking lever. The walking lever over there, that's or reversing lever, as I said, we tend to call it in the UK. That's in position now, bolted through to the rear spar, torqued up, and hopefully you can see it's been torque locked. And that's something else that's permanently fitted to the aircraft, so I'm going to fit the control column. We've got the stop in place, but that needs to be dressed back to give the full movement. So at the moment that's undersized the hole, but easy enough to dress through with the access hole on the bottom face of the aircraft. There we go, and that can now come out. That's just holding the grommet in place while the glue was drying. So that's the grommet for the aerials going to the back for pilot aware and the transponder. So we have small steps moving forward. Making up the safety cables for the shock strut. Here's one of the safety cables I've made already. It fits over these two tubes, and with it fully extended like that, stretched, we end up with a 1 inch gap between here and here. That's what it states on the plan. So that's what it does. As you can sort of see, I've got it coated with heat shrink to make sure it doesn't chatter on the inside of the tube. So here's one. I've just got this one set up. This little clamp bit here is to keep everything in position, and you see I've got one strip of masking tape around the end that allows it to go through the Nico swage, and it's important you use Nico swages with the Nico swaging tool. So I can just get that through there like that, and with it set up, it's the M on my tool here, so the M section there, and it states in the technical information that there should be two swagings carried out. So just place it in there. One, then I can move it across, do the second. So there we have the two swaging operations, and that can be checked with the go no go gauge. I'll just take this off, and I'm going to trim these down to the minimum of double the thickness of the cable. So I'm going to go to about 15/16. So I'll just measure that out and I'll mark it, and I'll cut that with the Dremel tool, and then I'll be back with you. So okay, so check with the go no go gauge. I'll get rid of the tool there. I'll get the heat gun over. Okay. So I'll thread that into a piece of heat shrink. Heat it up. So it's quite hard to thread these things on. I'm just snipping that off, so I've got about 1/8 of an inch of it sticking out each side. This heat shrink has got a glue inside it, so it actually sticks itself in place. Now I've got one slightly shorter sleeve now, which I'm going to go over the centre bit there. So it's got the first bit on, and now this bit, which is a little bit longer, just about goes to the end of the snip cables. There we have quite a neat joint, the same as that one. There's a match pair ready to go. So now if my bungee fails, in theory my undercarriage won't collapse enough to destroy the prop and for it all to fall to pieces and become a complete disaster. There we go. There goes swaging the safety cables. Okay, I've been continuing to work with the axle setup. Unfortunately, trying to do the videoing work was a bit problematic. So I've drilled the axle for a split pin. You've seen this before. I'll put a link to how I do that up there. So nice fit of the split pin. I replaced the washer sent by Fisher, which rests on the outer race, with one of these type of washers, which is thin line, but it's a serrated washer and it's cupped, so that loads the inner race. And the other bit which I've done is I've created these spacers out of 6082 T6 seamless tube, which fits the axle nicely and rests just on the inner tube. So we've got that as a slightly better system than the split steel one, which was just too big. I think it was designed for a slightly larger diameter axle. There we go. So axle's effectively complete now, just ready to go into whatever housing I make on the undercarriage, and have the back plates screwed to them as soon as I have that bit of hardware. I managed to get the information on what countersink should be used, so that's 100-degree countersink on there, ready to go. Now here are the blocks which are going to take the axle going through. Just cut them down to length and squared them off on the lathe, ready to go in the 4-jaw chuck, and they'll effectively sit on a steel version of this plate, but this is the aluminium one, like that, with the axle going through and the other plate on the other side, with a bolt going right the way through the middle here, and through the axle itself. But we need to have a 1.5 degree toe in on the end, so we put this into the 4-jaw chuck. I'm going to mark a halfway point and centralise it in the 4-jaw chuck like that, but using these little shims so that on each side, so there's a taper on those, and that will offset the block at an angle. So when I bore through here, it'll have that 1.5 degree section in it ready to go. And I'll face it again on the outside face, just so that it butts up onto the axle nicely, and I'll just put a slight recess on the inside here, but very, very slight, just so it can seat up on the slight taper, and that will get everything set up just near enough perfectly. Okay, I'll crack on with that. Well, there we have it. You might be able to tell looking at it that it's narrower this side than that side on this end. If I turn it around, it does the same thing, narrower this side than that side. And it's about central in the middle. I've marked which side's front, so when I put it into an axle holder, we'll get it sorted out, and that fits on there, and there's hardly any movement at all. So once this is painted, I'll probably have to sand some of the paint down to actually get that into place. But there we go. That's these little blocks created. Okay, what I've just done is I've drilled through slightly undersized 15/64 drill, and then reamed this through with a 1/4 ream both ends. So that's mounted. I don't know if you can see in there, there's the mounting hole for the bolt, which actually holds this U-channel onto the bottom of the fuselage. The bolt will go through from the bottom up. I know convention has bolts going through from the top down, but I'm putting my bolts through from the bottom up for these, the 2 U-channels holding the undercarriage, because that way inside the cockpit I'll be able to see the nuts with torque lock on, and see if they're undoing, where the other way around I can't actually see in here with the undercarriage leg in the way to see if it's starting to undo or anything like that. So that's that way. At the moment I've just got plain nuts on here. These will be nylocks, they just go into safety on these AN4-15As. I was contemplating whether I should actually drill and ream these, because the turnbuckles go onto them, but I'm going to leave that until I've actually dressed back this and got the turnbuckle into place. I can actually ream it to actually suit the turnbuckle precisely. Really, that's as far as I can go on this section of undercarriage at the moment. The shock struts will need to be dressed to fit into here, and I can't really do that until I've got the rest of the leg bit sorted out. So that's a little bit to go yet. The shock struts themselves I need to ream for the pins, for the bungee pins and the safety cable pins, just need to be reamed out a little bit, so those go through nice and smoothly. And then really I am waiting for the tubes. The only thing I can do is make up the steel versions of this, of which there'll be a slight modification on 2 of them to allow for the fact I don't want them to go right the way across the tube. I want them to go about just past halfway across the tube for welding, otherwise I've just got a big lump of weight that's not doing anything at all. There's going to be a slight modification as I'm doing the welded section, so I've got to make those up. and then I am really stuck until we've got those tubes. So I will be moving forward. I've already made a little bit of a start on the lathe, making up, I'll see if I can just show you, Tristan, show you a little bit. So here I am, I'm just about to start turning up bushings for going through the firewall to hold the engine mount bits there, because otherwise they're just going through the wood, and it's much better for them to have like a top hat bushing going through. So these will be turned down to 1/2 inch external diameter. They're already drilled and will be reamed to take the 3/8 tube goes into there, and it'll be an 1/8 inch thick and acts as a sort of washer on the firewall itself. Just going through these 4 points here. So that's a job which I've made a start, but they take some time to do the turning on. Okay, so I've been working on this lower control tube. So this bit here has got the this sort of pulley section, which is for the trim. That's all split pinned up, ready to go. And at the front end here, split pinned up, ready to go. So we've got our control column section can move backwards and forwards, and that's it, permanently fitted. I hope. I can't see any reason why it should come out now, but you never know. We've got that bit done. I'm going to put the cover back on here and call it quits there. You saw, or you've seen the fact that the reversing lever has been bolted in. That's been torque sealed. The top tube could, I suppose, go into place and just rest in there, going through to the back, and be left there. If I put a bit of foam or something around it just to protect the back end. We're slowly cracking these odd little bits off, which are going to stay and not be disturbed, which is great. It gives me a feeling we're actually getting towards a workable airframe. Right, catch you anon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.